We will start our lecture soon, so please turn on your camera. Okay, thank you. So today we will start our session with the presentation of your last assignment, which was the e-commerce analysis. So I know that you were observing 3 businesses, small businesses. So I'll give you like 5 minutes to discuss among your groups from those businesses that you have observed and analyzed, which one you would like to present for today's presentation. So just pick one and decide it among your group members, which one that you would like to present. Okay, so I'll give you like 5 minutes to discuss that. Okay, I think that's enough. So let's start with group 2, Gladys, Nurita, Pierre Arthur, and Jessica Natalia.
Okay, so our group chose Dava Jaya Store. I will start the presentation. Dava Jaya has transformed following technological development due to the impact of COVID-19 since late 2019. The shop started by doing business transaction manually or traditionally. What was originally a transaction made through face-to-face has now turned digital through social media, especially Facebook and WhatsApp. For the delivery process, before following digital development, Dava Jaya Store didn't provide goods delivery services, so that everything was traditionally. The buyer came home to see the goods, paid directly, and brought the goods home. After changing to an online store, there have been several changes in several ways, and what has been analyzed are: the first one is transaction. Transactions made by Dava Jaya are included in digital transactions. Usually, the buyer will see the goods sold on social media, such as WhatsApp stories and Facebook. The buyers will contact the seller if they want to buy an item via chat. For payment, according to the owner's explanation, there are some people who directly pay with the transfer method, but there are still those who use cash on delivery. Second is the product. The products sold by Dava Jaya are not digital products. In my opinion, the products sold are still cannot be digitalized yet because most of them are food. However, sometimes Dava Jaya stores also sell children's books. If the items like this, then there is still the possibility for Dava Jaya product to be digitalized. Third, product distribution. Most of the product distribution carried out by Dava Jaya is delivered by the owner herself. However, if the customer lives far away or the receiving address is far away, the customer can use goods delivery service such as the post office, JNE, and JNT. In my opinion, Dava Jaya Store has 80% potential to turn the store into a full digital one. However, as I said before, there are still many items such as food, perfume that cannot be digitalized. Dava Jaya Store sells a lot of goods, therefore there is still the possibility of the store turning 100% digital if the goods being sold can be digitalized in its entirely. However, if the Dava Jaya Store still maintains its merchandise as it now, it will not be able to 100% digital store, but only 80%. That's all from Group 2. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's interesting that you mentioned perfume, because in my opinion, perfume is one of the product that unless you are sure and you have been using that brand and type of perfume before, it is very hard to buy that online. Because traditionally, if you buy perfume, you need to test it first. You spray it on your wrist or behind your ears, on your neck, to see the reaction after a few minutes. That perfume interacts with our skin and our sweat, and also it will what do you call to test whether or not your skin allergic to that kind of perfume. So yeah, that's very difficult unless you bought the one that already famous, like Chanel No. 5, for example. That you are sure that that's the smell and how it's. Yeah, that's good. And I agree that as long as this company still sell physical product, it is very hard to turn them into 100% digital. And I would say, Gladys, that I don't think 80% is a fair assessment, because judging by the delivery method that the owner still deliver the product themselves, I think it's around 60 or 70. Because if it's more digitalized, for example, then it would be like the one in marketplace like Tokopedia or Bukalapak, where the owner just print out, sorry, the seller just print out the label and stick it to the product, and somebody will pick it up. That's good job. Thank you. So let's move to group 1, Maria Putri, Vincenzo Renal, and Mafli Devina.
Since November 2019, iResearch Store has entered the digitalization era, joining Shopee as their first e-commerce platform. Gradually, iResearch shop owners changed the entire sales process from being a door-to-door or outlet then expanding to e-commerce, especially since the COVID-19 has caused iResearch to experience a very fast and significant change from offline to online. iResearch sales increased to e-commerce until finally iResearch had a warehouse and
Sorry, could you zoom it a little bit? I can't see the little bit more. Yep, that's good. Thank you.
It's included in the 5 degrees of digitization. I think iResearch is included in the third degrees of or the third group. There are several factors behind it. The first factors come in the terms of the transactions. On the transaction side, iResearch has been able to transact of almost 100% digitally to several e-commerce platforms such as Shopee and Tokopedia, or the official website and Instagram iResearch. The second factor is in the payment section. In this section, iResearch has implemented digital payments through Shopee or M-Banking, GoPay, Dana, and others. The third factor is in terms of distribution. From the distribution point of view, it can be 100% digital. This is because the goods are physical and require delivery by the plane, ship, or other transportation. While the digital side of the delivery information data as well as the registration of the delivery, because everything is recorded by the system on the computer. What is certain that is that it cannot be converted 100% digital because the goods being created are still in the form of physical, so they cannot be digitized. What can be done digitally is only the design process. Based on the several factors that have been described regarding the change to digital, it can be concluded that iResearch has not completely turned into digital business. It's due to several factors related to the delivery to the production of the shoes in the form of physical goods. However, for operations, everything has slowly shifted to 100% digital. This also needs to be done properly and monitored so that the website, e-commerce, and iResearch social media can be well organized and reduce costs for human labor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree that it could not be 100% digitalized. But interestingly, you mentioned here about the shoe design. So they sell a shoe design or something like that right now?
I think, yes, sir.
Okay, so here's the interesting part. Have you ever heard the product called 3D printer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So few shoes manufacturers has tried to create fully 3D printed shoes. So instead of cutting and then sewing different part of shoes, they print the shoes from scratch using 3D printers. And I think if Aerostreet could use this opportunity to could design their products that can be downloaded and then printed out in a 3D printer, that might be another way to sell their product. Obviously, there are some problems that might need to be addressed first. For example, if you buy just one shoe, that's fine. Okay, but if you buy one shoe and then you print it more than once, then that would be a problem. So, but I think digital technology could overcome this because it has been done many times in farmer and agriculture sectors. do you know that some seed like paddy seed, corn, the farmers need to buy the seed every time they want to grow the crops. For example, with certain product of corn, you can't use the crops and then sow the seed and planted it. You can't, because it has been genetically designed not to be able to regrow from that crops. Okay, so if we can, as human, and any company can limit that kind of reproductive capability of a plant, then to limit the printability of a shoe is not that difficult, I guess. But that might be a good idea to follow up for this Aerostream. Thank you. Okay, so next, last but not least, to Group 3, Jonathan Reginald, Hildegard, and Eleonora.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will start our group presentation. We use as an example is Semeru Store. During the semi-lockdown period where the Semeru Store was forced to close, the turnover of Semeru Store fell drastically. Ryan, as the owner, sees shift in people's consumption patterns from offline shopping to online. Ryan finally focused more on selling through the online system and formed a special team to develop online sales through the marketplace. In my opinion, the Semeru Store belongs to the third degree of its digitalization level. The Semeru Store uses online shopping platforms such as Tokopedia, Shopee, Lazada, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as the official website, where the website has been developed so that consumer can buy electronic goods also through the official website of the Semeru Store. In terms of transaction, during the semi-lockdown, the Semeru Store has made 100% of transactions through digital transaction by utilizing e-commerce such as Shopee, Tokopedia, Lazada, and the official websites of the Semeru Store. Ryan, as the owner, also admits that there is huge potential to develop business through Tokopedia. There are many features in this marketplace that help increase the business turnover. He admits that he often uses top ads and broadcast messages which have been used every month for the Semeru Store Makassar online store. Ryan said, I have several marketplaces as well, but Tokopedia is the largest. 85% of the marketplace turnover comes from Tokopedia, and the first marketplace I opened was Tokopedia. But during the PPKM period, which is now it's over, Semeru Store now can even open branch and can sell electronic goods offline. In terms of distribution of the product itself, because the electronic goods sold at the Semeru Store are television, refrigerator, fans, and many more, it is impossible to do digitally. The goods will definitely be sent via existing transportation. On the digital sides, what is done digitally is only the registration part of the goods to be sent, which is done with a system on a computer that will generate invoice notes, but it will not fully be digital because the employee of the Semeru Store still entering the goods to be sold manually into the e-commerce. In my opinion, with the explanation of the three-factor transaction, product, and the product distribution, it can be seen that the Semeru Store has not completely turned into a digital business because in the field of sending and collecting goods to e-commerce, it still uses human labor for expedition and human labor in entering data system into the e-commerce. But in the transaction, it has fully used digital transaction. Even the Semeru Store has done digital marketing also through Instagram and Facebook. That it's still very often used for buying and selling goods. I think there is still a chance for Semeru Store and other electronic stores to be fully digital if there is system development in conventional store and technology development in the future. That's all from our group. Thank you.
Okay, good. I think you were the first one that mentioned the specific marketing effort with social media, which is something that I think currently is being used. And for advertising or marketing using digital tools like Google Ads, Facebook, and any other social media is actually better for small business because, for example, if you order, this is not just by displaying the picture of your product on Instagram, for example, but you actually buying advertising slot in Facebook or Google, which actually you can see how many people have been served your ads, and from those people, how many actually click, your advertising and end up buying your product. It has been implemented. One of our alumni that currently managed to electrical store here in Jogja actually did that, and he often show me how many people actually seen the advertising, how many people actually click and end up actually buying the products. Okay. Because electronic, especially like lighting, cables, lighting features, is not something that you usually shop unless it's not like clothing, it's not like shoes, it's not like bags that you buy it because on impulse. Electronic product like lighting, cables, etc., you actually buy it because you need it. If you search something like that over the internet, you usually need it. It's not like when you saw advertising of cables, for example, and then wow, the cables look beautiful. I want to buy it. It's not like that. You search that information because you actually need it for your home or your project or whatever. So that's actually working quite well, and that's the way to go, I think, in the future. If you, I don't know where do you now currently resided, but if you travel around Yogyakarta, you'll see a lot of advertising spaces, baliho, that actually now empty, unused. Why? Because people think that's too expensive. If you put up advertising, baliho in, say, near Telkom office in Gridhasono Stadium, that could cost you 100 million rupiah. For small business, 100 million rupiah is a substantial amount. And if you use that for Google Ads, for example, it can reach so many people and target it. So it's precision marketing, I like to say. Okay, good. Thank you for all the presentation. That's been good. So I hope you can now understand how the e-commerce work and how the small business could use various tools available to them. And most of the time, it's quite affordable to advance their businesses. Okay, so today we will discuss something that has been become a trend for quite some time, which is knowledge management and artificial intelligence, especially artificial intelligence. This year, for the first time in perhaps since I was student at our faculty, our program, the accounting program, failed to achieve target of new student entrants. This is the first time ever, I think. So the which one is that? The 2021 intake student is actually lower than the target. Okay, you haven't met them yet, but hopefully soon you can meet them. But it's not surprising. Why? Because in the last few years, the high school graduates that listed or registered or try to get into accounting program all over Indonesia were actually on decline. And that's not only in our university, but also other universities, including Gadjah Mada, University of Indonesia, and other university in Indonesia that has accounting program. The problem is artificial intelligence. Accounting profession was listed as one of the profession that in the future will be replaced by machine. Okay, and that's scare a lot of people. Now, so far I haven't seen any evidence that accounting job could be completely replaced by machine. For example, if you search starting in 2015, ANZ Bank in Australia and New Zealand, they have digitalized and automized their accounting process. So very minimum human involvement in there. So all the staff in that bank just enter the data of transaction into the system, and the system will take care of the rest. It will produce various reports on time and with high accuracy and reliability. However, just because the accounting system has been replaced by automated software doesn't necessarily mean that ANZ accounting staff are on decrease. In fact, right now, no, not right now, but in 2019, the last data that I had, the number of people who work on accounting department at ANZ was at all-time high. So they're actually hiring accounting staff bigger than ever. Why? Because this accounting staff, they did something that no machine actually can do right now, which is to analyze the information and communicate that result to the stakeholder. Okay, so if you look at accounting as a process of preparing financial report, then yes, it will be replaced by a machine. Okay, but if you look at accounting information as analyzing, understanding, interpreting, and then communicating financial information, then it's very difficult to replace that with machine. Computer could not communicate. Computer could not create presentation. Computer could not persuade you to make any decision. Okay, so that's right. We'll discuss that later. Okay, so let's start with. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So it's managing knowledge and artificial intelligence. So, okay, knowledge. Let me ask you this. Is there any skills that you're proud of, that you're good at it, and when nobody in your family, not your siblings, could match that skill? Anybody can cook, restaurant class meals?
Not yet, maybe, sir.
Okay, but you can cook.
Yeah, not yet.
In my family, cooking is one skill that we are proud of. Not me though. So in my family, it was my father actually, the chef in our household. Unfortunately, my father's gene was not in my blood, I think, because I inherited my mom's gene. My mother, she could not cook. She even burned when she tried to cook rice. She burned it down sometimes ago when I was a child. So, okay. Anyway, I had two siblings. All are male. So even though we were boys, my father trained us, teach us how to cook. But only my brother, the middle child, I'm the oldest, the middle child that could actually cook good enough that he opened a restaurant. My father's style of cooking was just, throwing everything into the cooking pans or wok, and then it will create a very tasty meal. And my brother actually been able to closely match that, not as good as my father was, but closely matched. Probably because my brother didn't cook for me quite so often like what my father did. Anyway, he taught us everything he knew about cooking. I can cook, simple meal, but if I cook, I need a recipe with precise measurement. If somebody said to me, use a tablespoon of sugar, I'll ask him, which tablespoon? Because there are different size of tablespoon. Teaspoon, which teaspoon? Because there are a lot of different teaspoons. So when cooking, I will follow the recipe very closely. If the recipe said use 5 grams of salt, then I will measure the salt with 5 grams. If they said 2 liters of water, I'll measure the water 2 liters. Well, my brother, when he cooked, he didn't actually follow any recipe, just by instinct, throwing everything just like what my father did. Okay. Now, that's knowledge. I'll never be able to cook as well as my brother or as well as my father, even though I follow the, well, once I asked my father when I was studying and far away from him, I asked him about the recipe for one of his cooking that I like very much. And what he said to me was, just use salt as many as you like. Just use this as many as you like. And I said, well, that's not helping. But when my father said to my brother, he could replicate the cooking as close as possible to what my father did. And I remember when I was a child, every time my father went to a restaurant, So, okay, when I was in high school, my father was, he was working in Jogja, and then he was moved to Pekalongan, a very different city from us. So he moved to Pekalongan. Okay, the first few weeks when he moved there, because my mother and me and also all my brother were staying in Jogja, we accompany him. So one afternoon, my father asked me to just moving around Pekalongan just to know the city using a motorcycle. And on one spot, my father just stopped, smelling something in the air and said, there's a good restaurant around here. I tried to smell that, I smelled nothing. But apparently there was a small restaurant behind a building that were actually quite good. And then when my father looked at the way the cook prepare the meals, he could replicate that the next week. So that's knowledge. Now, translate that into the university. Okay. You were in your third semester, right? Okay. Let me ask you this. You don't need to mention the name, but you probably have one or two lecturers that actually your favorite. Any of you have a lecturer or two that were your favorite? Don't mention names, okay? If not, that's fine. Nobody perfect. Okay, so why did you like this particular lecturer? Gladys, I saw that you were smiling when I mentioned it. Why did you like this particular lecturer? Don't mention the name. And don't mention the gender, he or she. Okay. Why
Because
did you?
the explanation is clear and the lecture is only about 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, when I was student, I also like this kind of lecture. Easy on assignment, easy on exam. It's not never full. 3 hours, and suddenly at the end of the semester you've got a good grade. That's good. That's fair. So, able to explain the materials to you clearly. That's good. That's a very good feature of a lecture that you probably like. Okay, Pierre, do you have any favorite lectures?
The
Just say
same,
your.
sir. The best lecture.
Okay. Why did you like that particular lecture?
When he explained the
Oh,
lecture is very clear and don't take a lot of time, and it's easy to understand.
okay, good. Do you think all the lecturers that on the same field have the same knowledge? Have the same theory, have the same science about it? Yes, they do. All the classes, at least in our faculty, has been, at least in our program, has been standardized. So, for example, I know this for a fact. All the financial accounting lectures, they will meet each semester and agree upon the topics, the materials, and the scope of the class. So this is for introduction to accounting. This is for intermediate accounting. This is for advanced accounting. They even agreed upon the type of exam. How difficult should it be for the students? So it's pretty standardized. However, I know for a fact that plenty of those lecturers, when they try to convey their knowledge to the students, not everybody are equal. Some are very good in explaining difficult concept. The other struggle to even make students understand simple concept. Okay, so there are differences. Although they have the same, let's say they have the same ammunition, they have the same material, they have the same topics. Okay. So that's knowledge. I have two favorite lecturers actually. Unfortunately, both are retired now. They were good lecturers. They could explain the topics clearly. They were passionate about their students. That's something that not every lecturers could have. However, when the time for exam, both are very hard. One lecturer actually able to surprise us. This is for financial accounting. So this one particular lecturer, when we studied for the exam, we tried every variation of problems for exam. We studied the previous year's exam. We studied the materials closely, and yet she always able to surprise us with the new kind of problems that never been discussed before. The other lecturers were very creative in creating assignment. So in 1995, for example, the lecturer, the subject that I was enrolled in was operations research. Okay, so it was in 1995. I remember vividly because that was the time when our faculty moved from Richang campus to our current campus in Paparsari. So the assignment this lecturer assigned to us was to calculate the cost and benefit of moving campuses for students. So I had to explain, just for one assignment, I had to go to Paparsari and, did some research and like how much is cost for a lunch, how much is cost for, say, a boardroom there. So at the time, I understand the difference between it. Have you ever been to Paparsari area? Have you seen our campus before the pandemic? No. So if you look at the campuses, there are two. Paparsari Street actually divided the area into two different, let's just say, socio-economic area. On the east part is for the students that have to go to Atmajaya and then stay in boarding house that, rather on the cheap side. While on the west side, the Dirgantara complex, it was for the, the one who have more money. Let's just say that. But that was then. Okay. So yeah, every lecturer have the same theory, have the same books, have the same materials, have the same syllabus, and yet they are different. Okay, and that's knowledge. Okay, let's return to this. Okay, a lot of company now invest in knowledge rather than in physical product, okay, especially true in the US. Okay. Let's take a look at one of the companies, Apple. Okay. Sure, Apple produce iPhone, Mac, iPad, but they didn't actually produce them. They design the product, knowledge, and then they ask somebody else to build that product for them. Okay, Google. It's very only a few products that could be called made by Google. Actually similar. Google just design something, if it's physical product, and then ask somebody else to build for them. Take Android, for example. Google, when Android starting to grow, Google asked Samsung, Motorola, Huawei, and any other company to build a mobile phone using Google rather than Google develop it themselves. Okay. So that's what we have today. So what I mentioned earlier about cooking skill, teaching skills is this one, tacit knowledge. This is knowledge that reside inside our mind. Okay. While what I mentioned as a book, recipe, teaching materials, it's all the explicit knowledge. The problem with tacit knowledge is whenever the owner of the tacit knowledge left the organization, be it that person resigned, moved to another organization, or fired or retired, then they bring that tacit knowledge along with them. Okay, so it has different forms. It has location, it is situational, and purpose. And yet, a lot of us need this particular tacit knowledge for our organization. Okay, you need a good lecturer that can explain difficult concept to you clearly with simple language. And yet that's not really easy to transfer. Okay. So the focus of a lot of organizations is trying to transform tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. Okay. So knowledge base is core competencies and it's key organizational assets. Among other things, if you look at the many modern organizations, they were depend on patents or copyrights or any other intellectual property. Okay. Google once spent almost $5 billion to buy Motorola division of mobile phone. And then they sell that division to Lenovo for less than their purchase price. Why? Because Google didn't need mobile phone factory. What they need was the patents held by Motorola division. So when Google sell that mobile phone company to Lenovo, Google didn't sell the patents. Google hold the patents. Okay. So then it will lead to the concept it's called organizational learning. Organization gain experience through their members, not the organization itself, but the members of that organization. If you look at our faculty, for example, when I was students, nobody in our faculty members, no lecturers had doctoral degree, but now we have a lot of PhDs in our faculty. Nobody was professor at the time. Now in our faculty we had 2 professors, female professors. So that's how organization create and develop knowledge. Now, if we look at this picture, this is how the knowledge being developed and then being used in an organization. So it starts with data and information acquisition, and it's the knowledge creation here, and the knowledge dissemination, and then applying those knowledge for organizational activity, and then at the end it will create a new knowledge. Unlike physical product, when you share knowledge, it will not diminish. If you had like 10 apples and you share those 10 apples among this class, it will be gone in matter of minutes. There were no apples anymore. But if you share knowledge, it will not diminish, but only grow, because different people will apply the same knowledge differently, and then at the end will create a new knowledge. Okay. So there are a lot of company nowadays understand. Let me just for a moment, okay? Just sorry about that. Okay, so a lot of organizations nowadays understand the importance of knowledge. So they have specific or they have created special division or department to deal or to manage the knowledge. If you look at many enterprises, they have what they call as a corporate university. This is a specific division for education and training. The government, they have various training center for their department. And if you were if you were a public servant and your career was preparing you for high rank government position, then you will be trained or you will go to school in a institution called Lemhanas. Okay. So the public servant that were prepared for high ranking position will have to go to Lemhanas for training. Okay. If we look at our military, if one military members want to be, high-ranking official, like in the general rank or admiral or air marshal, they have to go to specific training schools called the command staff or CESCO. Okay. So that's how organization think about knowledge these days. And a lot of organizations also send their staff for continuing education. If you look at our postgraduate programs, there were a lot of people went for their master degree because they were sent by their organization, to advance the knowledge. Okay. These are the type of knowledge management system. You can learn it by yourself. So there are three types of knowledge in enterprise. Structured documents like report, presentation, formal rules, semi-structured document like emails or video, and unstructured, including tacit knowledge. The problem is 80% of organizational knowledge are in form of structured and unstructured, especially tacit knowledge. When I was in high school, there was a mathematics teacher that very brilliant. Unfortunately, he was not a good teacher. So when he taught us about solving mathematics equation, very difficult one, and we asked him, how do you solve that equation? And what he said to us was trial and error. He didn't actually told us how to do the trial and error. Okay, so that's one problem, and a lot of people having this kind of tacit knowledge unable to transform tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. That's why in university now and also in our school system, teachers, lecturers were encouraged, even pushed to write something. Now, for example, the government starting next year will require our lecturers to publish research, to conduct research and to publish the result, at least once a year. The professor, for example, they have to publish a book every 3 years. Why? Because the government and also the education sector try to capture as many tacit knowledge as possible and transform them into explicit knowledge. That's why, for example, I wrote a book, I published a book, six actually, published writing. Some of your lecturers often write articles in newspaper. That's part of the effort to transform their tacit knowledge into explicit. So with explicit knowledge, other people could learn, could read, and then learn that knowledge. Okay, that's for the knowledge major. Now the scary part, artificial intelligence. The vision of artificial intelligence is for computer. This is the grand vision. Okay, the unattainable vision that computer hardware and software can act as smart as human. This is currently not so much. Okay. The realistic vision is computers could do some automatic and routine difficult activities or tasks better than human. Like, for example, calculating large number. It's possible for us to calculate large number, but without computer, obviously. But it will take longer time and probably with low accuracy. But with computers, it can be done fast. Okay. So, for example, recognize faces in seconds. Computer is very good. If you look at the face, our face, the computer is very good in recognizing pattern. Our face is not just some random face. Our face has a pattern. For example, the position of our eye, the position of our ears, the height of our cheekbone. As long as you didn't change the skull structure of your head, then computer will be able to identify that. For example, even though you have plastic surgery, you enhance your cheek, you change the your skin, you change the eyebrow, you change the nose and everything, but the distance between your eye will be stable. The distance between your ear, in here, the cheek will be the same, unless you change the structure of bone, and that's almost impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but very difficult and expensive, and also dangerous to change. Analyze CT scan, for example. This was actually a project that did by my friend back in 2000, 20 years ago, that he created a software that analyzed CT scan and look for sign of cancer. So it's not to replace doctor for diagnosing cancer, but it helped doctor by putting a sign that this part need further examination. Why? Because it's not normal. It's different from normal organ. Okay. So instead of the doctor look at the whole picture, they can immediately go to the area that has been highlighted by the software. Okay. Analyze millions of financial record, detect pattern, navigate car, and respond to questions from humans like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, or Google Assistant. Okay. So these are the the major types of artificial intelligence: expert system, machine learning, neural networks, genetic algorithm. Our rector, Pak Yoyong, he is an expert in genetic algorithms applied specifically for earthquake-resistant building. So what Pak Yoyong did, if I'm not mistaken, was he analyzed different type of building structure, and then using genetic algorithm, he could pinpoint which structure is best for earthquake resistant building. Machine learning. Let me ask you this: any of you already take statistics this semester?
Previous semester, sir.
Previous semester, okay. So, what did you learn from statistics?
Excel, sir.
Yes, I know exactly. What type of analysis that you learn in statistics? Have you learned linear regression? Simple regression? Devina, did you learn regression?
I think so, sir, but I don't really remember.
Okay, at least did you pass the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so yes, you learn about regression. If you learn about regression, then you already learn about machine learning. So without your knowing, you already learn about machine learning. Regression is one type of machine learning that has been used for analyzing data. So with regression, for example, can you analyze data and find regression equation by yourself manually? Yes, you could. But it will take a long time to do that. Okay, and with less accuracy. With computers, it's just a matter of minutes. It depends on the power of your computer. The more powerful computer you have, the faster it gets. But, for example, now I give my students at database management system an assignment to conduct regression analysis. It involves one dependent variables and 20 independent variables, 21 variables in total. However, the number of data that have to calculate was almost 45,000. Okay, so that's not much, but if you did that manually, it probably take more than a month to finish that. But with the computer, just one click, and that's it. So when you learn about regression, you actually already learn about machine learning, and a lot of analysis being done in the real world, in practice, not the real world, in practice, in working world, is actually just regression. Another plate, another. Have you ever heard Hildegard? Have you learned about correlation analysis in statistics? Correlation analysis?
I don't remember, sir. Maybe I did.
Okay, well, yeah, well, that's not bad. I mean, that's what I call as semester amnesia. So you immediately forget what you learned last semester. That's okay. So correlation is analysis to see whether A happened when B happened. Okay, so it's just that you can correlate anything actually. You can correlate my salary every month with the number of chicken egg produced all over Indonesia. You know, as long as you have the number, fetch that into Excel and did the correlation analysis, it might show that it has positive significant correlation. So whenever my salary increase, the number of chicken egg produced in Indonesia also increase. That might be the case. But again, correlation is just A happen, B happen. So it's not A causing B. It's not like that. It's just whenever A happen, B also happen. In order to be able to say that A causing B, you need another analysis. Okay? But for business, in practice, that's not really necessary. You don't need to know what causing what. Okay? What's the cause of this phenomenon? As long as it's, for example, if you have a lot of people gather in one place, like the football field or schools, then you probably see that a lot of street merchants, selling street food, selling toys, or selling other, small stuff will also appear, right? Okay, so that's correlation. Do you need to know why? You don't need. As long as there are a lot of people gather, you can sell something. Okay, so that's the type of machine learning that being used. Even a company as big as Google also use correlation for a lot of their analysis. Okay, so this is the typical scenario. For example, Tokopedia or Bukalapak. So they will observe, say, Jonathan visit Tokopedia or Bukalapak, starting by looking at t-shirts, and then move to shoes, and then move to electronics, and then finally we bought snacks. Okay, so that's it, for example. Tokopedia then analyze why Jonathan at the end bought snacks. What triggered the decision to buy snacks? That's what they are after. So, for example, Jonathan immediately felt the urge to buy snack after seeing red basketball shoes, for example. Okay. Tokopedia doesn't need to understand why. What they need to know is red shoes equal to hunger, hunger equal to decision to buy snacks. That's, for examples like that. And that's what they actually use. So that's why if you visit marketplace and you see recommendation for you, they were based on your previous activities, and that's correlation and also regression for that. That's simple. Okay. And I said earlier that accounting profession that preparing the financial report will be replaced by a machine, but the analysis part will not. Okay. Let's return to the slide. Okay. So this is the artificial intelligence, expert system machine learning. That's actually just helping you to analyze data that seems to be random and in a vast amount. Okay. You will be lost if you look at 10,000 Excel files. But with the help of computer, you can analyze these 10,000 Excel files and came up with some meaningful information. Okay. If you look at expert system, for example, it's very simple. It's actually just like what we did. For example, if you want to, in this case, do you want to give this particular customer credit or not? There are a lot of requirements to have credit. For example, if there is their income above 50,000. If it's yes, then we can go to the next stage. If not, stop. Okay. Under 50,000, you are not eligible for credit. Okay. So with this more than 50,000 is 10% for paying mortgage? Less than 10%. If it's yes, then okay, continue to next. If it's not, stop. You are not eligible for credit, and so on and so forth. So it's just like a series of yes or no question. Okay, do you have more than 50,000 income? If yes, go to the next round. If not, stop here. You're not eligible. That's it. That's expert system. Machine learning. Okay, recognizing pattern. I already told you this. Neural network. This is like you might see here. The word learn was put between the quotes. So it's not actually learning something or train something, but we create some kind of this small decision, yes or decision into the computers. So this is the will not genetic algorithm. Okay, natural language processing, understanding the language that we speak. You know, with Google Translate, Siri, Alexa, Cortana, Google Assistant. It's become better now. From these four, Siri, Alexa, Cortana, and Google Assistant, once there were an experiments to measure their IQ, their intelligence. You know, like IQ test when you answering a series of questions. So the smartest among these four was Google Assistant. Okay, and that according to that IQ test, Google Assistant IQ was just about 70. If it was human, it will be deemed as an idiot, you know, somebody that quite stupid, that they will not function properly in society. Okay, people with disabilities. But since it's a computer, 75 IQ, that's okay, you know. And but you do understand that IQ have nothing to do with people's smartness or ability to be succeed. IQ is just one part, and another part have bigger influence. A lot of smart people doesn't actually quite success. Okay, vision, robotics. Robotics has been used extensively in industry to replace human for dangerous works like bomb disposal. You know, if it's people and the bomb explode, it actually could kill, and worse, could cripple the person or the human. But with robot, if it's broken, by another one. Okay. In car manufacturing company, robot has been used for welding. You know, welding in car manufacturing plant is a very dangerous job. You deal with electricity, high voltage and high power electricity. One mistake you made there, you can electrocute and die for that. So that's why it's better for robot to do the welding. Yeah. So see, in this case, artificial intelligence was used to replace human for dangerous assignment. Okay, do you want to be electrocuted? I don't think so. Do you want to have bomb explode in front of you? I don't think so. But with robot, that can be done. Home vacuums, I have one. So it's a robot that can sweep and mop the floors. Okay, it's helped a lot, especially since I really hate sweeping and mopping. Okay. but I don't think it's as good as people actually sweeping and mopping the floor. You know, it's good for lazy people like me, but it's not as clean as actual people who clean. Intelligence thing. Okay, that's it for our lecture today. Any question? So,
Sir,
okay,
so far.
yeah, okay. So, if you look at any news or articles about accounting profession is replaced by computers, don't be afraid. You are smarter than any computers. And what you need just, like I said, the skill of communication, for example, has not yet been mastered by computers. They are very good in processing data, but they are very bad in presenting the information. And have you ever been taught by computers, replacing your teachers? I don't think so. Okay. So translating difficult concept and convey that concept to you in simpler terms that you can understand require human, okay, not computers. And that apply to accounting profession as well. Okay. So in the future, accounting profession will be more analytical rather than clerical. You don't need to prepare a financial report anymore. What you need to do is just. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry
Yes,
about
sir.
that. My headphone just running out of battery. So, what you need to do as accountant or accounting graduates to receive that information, make sense of that information, and then present that to other people that need that information with your recommendation. Okay, buy this stock, close that factory, create this product. This is cheaper than that. Things like that. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. There's no question. I think that's it for today. Okay. Thank you for attending the class and see you on the next lecture.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.